Mira Ricardel, the White House Deputy National Security Advisor, has been removed from her position. This comes after US First Lady Melania Trump said that Ricardel did not deserve the honor of working with her husband. The two reportedly feuded during a tour of Africa in October. White House spokesperson Sarah Sanders said in a statement that Ricardel will continue to support the president as she departs the White House to transition to a new role within the administration. Israeli Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman announced his resignation in protest at a Gaza ceasefire that he called a capitulation to terror, weakening Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's conservative coalition government. The resignation will go into effect 48 hours after he submits a formal letter to Netanyahu. Lieberman said his resignation also withdraws his far-right Israel Beitenu party from the coalition. Palestinians in Gaza have hailed the resignation of Israeli Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman, citing it as a political victory. Palestinian groups say that Lieberman's resignation signaled Israel's failure to confront Palestinian resistance in the West Bank city of Ramallah. Palestinian Foreign Minister Riyad al-Maliki said Lieberman's decision was not surprising and that it was made for political gains. US President Donald Trump has nominated Indian-American woman Naomi Rao for senior judgeship. He has nominated her to replace Brett Kavanaugh on the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. Remember, Brett Kavanaugh has been elevated to the Supreme Court. If the Senate confirms this, Rao will be the second Indian-American judge after Srinivasan on the D.C. Circuit. French Prime Minister Edouard Philippe announced a €500 million plan to help motorists on the lowest incomes in a bid to defuse a wave of nationwide protests against a tax increase on fuels. The government will double the current €2,000 bonus granted to motorists on low incomes who change old model cars, seen as contributing to pollution for more recent and cleaner ones. The government will also increase other aid granted to motorists, as well as an existing special aid for low-income families who use diesel fuel to heat their homes. Heavy smog has also enveloped China's capital city, Beijing. A yellow alert has been sounded after pollution levels peaked. Beijing is experiencing its worst air quality in over 1.5 years. The levels of PM 2.5 pollution have risen to over 288 micrograms per cubic meter. The elderly, children and those who have heart or lung problems have been advised to stay indoors. British Prime Minister Theresa May has won the backing of her senior ministers for the draft Brexit deal with European Union. After a 5-hour-long meeting with the cabinet ministers at 10 Downing Street, Theresa May said that she had full backing of her cabinet. She added that Brexit is the best interest of the United Kingdom. May now faces the ordeal of trying to push her deal through a vote in the British Parliament, where opponents lined up to criticise the agreement even before reading it. Meanwhile, pro- and anti-Brexit protesters demonstrated outside London's Downing Street as British Prime Minister Theresa May briefed her cabinet on a draft European Union divorce deal. A group of pro-Brexit demonstrators attending a rally organised by the Leave Means Leave campaign group were met by a handful of pro-EU demonstrators. On the sidelines of a summit in Singapore, US Vice President Mike Pence ramped up pressure on Myanmar's de facto leader, calling for an explanation of the jailing of 2 Reuters journalists over their coverage of the crisis in direct marks as he sat next to Suu Kyi. Pence condemned the violence and persecution against the Rohingya as without excuse. French government spokesman has accused US President Donald Trump of a lack of common decency for attacking his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron on Twitter on the 3rd anniversary of a jihadist massacre in Paris. The reaction comes as the strongest yet by the French government to Trump's astonishing attack on Macron, which came 2 days after he was the French leader's guest at World War I centenary commemorations in Paris. Italian Interior Minister Matteo Salvini welcomes a group of 51 migrants from Niger entitled to international protection upon their arrival at the Mario di Bernardi military airport in Rome. The meeting comes after several thousands of protesters rallied in Rome on Saturday to protest against what they criticized as unfair anti-migrant policies promoted by far-right Interior Minister Matteo Salvini. On his way to the U.S. border with Mexico, U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis tells reporters that the deployment of troops to the border is absolutely legal. President Donald Trump ordered the military deployment in the run-up to the midterm elections, with critics assailing the move as a costly political stunt to mobilize his conservative base. Mattis rejected criticism and said the deployment was the right thing to do. He added that deployment was deemed legal by Trump administration attorneys and was improving readiness by giving troops more experience in rapid deployment. The U.S. Congress welcomed its freshman class to Washington as newly elected senators and House representatives received their orientations from senior colleagues. Democratic and Republican House freshmen posed for a family photo in front of the Capitol building, including the dozens of newly elected female lawmakers who helped notch records in last week's congressional elections. In the November 6 elections, there were 237 women on ballots for House seats, and at least 96 won their races by the following day, shattering the previous record and surpassing the 84 women currently in the House. Sweden's parliament rejected centre-right moderates party leader ULF Kristersson as new prime minister in a vote on Wednesday, leaving no end in sight to the political deadlock that has gripped the country since the September election. Kristersson bid for the premiership had looked doomed to fail after two other parties in the centre-right alliance bloc said they would oppose any government that relied on support from the shunned anti-immigration Sweden Democrats. Kristersson lost the vote by 154 to 195 in the 349-seat parliament, with the Sweden Democrats supporting his candidature. A 41-gun salute was held to mark the 70th birthday of Britain's Prince Charles in London. The King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery fired their guns 41 times in Green Park to celebrate the birthday of the heir to the throne. The Honourable Artillery Company saluted Charles at the Tower of London, while the bells of Westminster Abbey were also rung in celebration. Charles will attend a special tea party heralding 70 inspirational people who also turned 70 this year, before heading to a private function for friends and family hosted by the Queen. Tesla Incorporated co-founder Elon Musk and Mexico's tequila producers could be headed for a collision. This after the agave-based drinks industry group opposed Musk's efforts to trademark an alcoholic drink dubbed Tesla Tequila. Musk is known for ambitious and cutting-edge projects ranging from auto electrification and rocket building to high-speed transit tunnels. Now it seems that Musk could be setting his sight on disrupting the multi-billion-dollar tequila industry. Archaeologists in Bolivia have discovered tombs containing artifacts dating more than 500 years old. Archaeologists say that the artifacts may have belonged to the Paquejes people. Bolivia's Ministry of Cultures and Tourism authorized the dig after a mining project discovered archaeological remains in the area. Scientists had to lower themselves through a circular chimney to reach these tombs. They found two special tombs. One of them had about 108 individuals inside. They have recovered objects that the individuals were buried with.
Tienen llamitas estilizadas. El otro tiene
India has raised the issue of Pakistan-sponsored terror with the United States at the highest level during a meeting between Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, US Vice President Mike Pence on the sidelines of the East Asia Summit. This was the first high-level US-India talks since the signing of the S-400 missile deal with Russia. The two leaders also spoke about the sticky issues like H-1B visas, trade and energy needs. India's premier space agency, the ISRO, conducted its fifth launch of the year. The GSAT-29, an advanced communication satellite, was put into orbit by the GSLV Mark III. It is touted to be one of the most significant launches by the Indian Space Research Organization. The cyclonic storm Gaja is set to make landfall between Cuddalore and Pamban today evening, bringing heavy rainfall to Tamil Nadu. The state government has put already over 30,000 rescue personnel on standby. All educational institutions in Puducherry and Karaikal regions would remain closed in view of the cyclone. Earlier, the Indian Meteorological Department issued an alert to the residents and fishermen in the state to stay away from the seas. Cyclone Gaja will be the second cyclone to hit the coastal area after Cyclone Titli wreaked havoc in Odisha and Andhra Pradesh in October, killing over 50 people.